thanks for attending this webinar today around Live Maps, our new release version 8.7. This is going to be a product-focused webinar with a live demonstration on our latest release that was launched 2 weeks ago at Ignite. There's going to be lots of interesting product features and real deep dive with Chris Millay. I'm Matthew Carr. I'm the Business Development Manager. I'm based in Amsterdam. I've been 6 years with Civision. And also we have Chris Millay, who's our support manager. He's based in Texas. And I think many of our happy customers already know Chris really well. But yeah, that's our smiling faces there for you to enjoy. So next slide, please, Chris. So yeah, the agenda for today, we're briefly just going to give everybody a short update of Microsoft Ignite that happened a couple of weeks ago. For those who are not lucky enough to be there, we'll share some of the news from Civision and also from Microsoft. But yeah, if you didn't get there, at least you avoided the hurricanes in Orlando. So we got nice weather in Europe during that time. And then we're going to focus with a live demonstration from Chris Millay on all the new features. I think a lot of these features have been heavily requested by the community around deeper performance graphs and very technical dashboards. We're going to look at alert management, the new PowerShell widget we've launched, and the OMS widget, and then also go on to our new service dashboards. And that's going to be the majority of the webinar for you guys. But then please do stay till the end. We have an exclusive special offer only for Live Maps customers that's not really been announced in the market yet or to anybody. So if you do stay till the end, you're going to have some interesting news. And then finally, we will have a Q&A session. So, you know, there is a question box here in the webinar. So fire through your questions. Really, depending upon the time we have at the end, we'll try and answer them all. And if not, we promise to get back to each of you at least individually. But it can be anything around Live Maps or System Center or anything about Civision. But feel free to shoot them over. Okay, cool. Next slide, please, Chris. Okay, so for those of you who don't know us, which is probably not many, just a very brief introduction to Civision. Yeah, so we've been around about 10 years, devoted to the System Center market in SCOM, providing dashboard solutions that are available for many different personas and industries that are using SCOM today, but people that struggle to handle the large amount of data and alerts that's come out of SCOM. So we built, a lot of experience around that. It's given us a very global presence. We're present in 50 customers. We're still very aligned to Microsoft as a Gold ISV partners. Our 900 customers makes us still the market leader in SCOM dashboards. And we also work with various partners around the world to help implement complete dashboarding and monitoring solutions for SCOM. That's Civision in a nutshell. So yeah, a quick highlight of what happened at Ignite for those of you who weren't lucky enough to attend this year. So yeah, this is our team preparing for Ignite. You can see there's quite a lot of years of combined experience there between the team, many years in Civision, many years in the community. I won't mention how many years for some of the people because they might get a little bit annoyed with me. Our theme was oranges and sinaasappel, as we say in the Netherlands. Sinaasappel obviously being the color orange, which is the same color as the Dutch royal family. So the main game was to guess the number of oranges in the box, and the winner, which was Afsal Kaiser and Gary Tim, both walked away with a brand new drone to go and play about with. But yeah, that was a lot of fun for everybody. We had a lot of people coming up and trying to guess the number of oranges, and yeah, some very technical responses and ways to solve it. So that was Civision, but we were actually present now with 2 booths this year. Normally we went with 1, but we thought it was very interesting to do this as 2 booths. The first one was obviously around Live Maps, which was the launch of our 8.7 version. And we had really good feedback there. A lot of our existing customers could not wait to get their hands on the new version, and we just got really good feedback, and that was why now we want to share this webinar with you guys so everybody can see the potential of the new version. And then we also had another booth, which was our relaunch of Civision IQ version 2.0. As you can see, it's our single pane of glass solution, of which I will talk a little bit more later about that. Thanks, Chris. Next slide. And then just an update for everybody who might not have seen it, the information around Microsoft, around System Center. The main highlights there for all of you guys on the webinar who are probably interested in SCOM. They did announce some new functionality focused around enhanced Windows Server and Linux support. They also announced new HTML5 dashboards. For SCOM, so just to let you know, the new dashboards are basically a replacement of Silverlight with pretty much the same UI experience, but that's been a long time coming with Microsoft finally removing the dependence on Silverlight. And then the other major message was how SCOM fits into their Azure story. You know, so they specifically focus in on OMS service map integration, which we recently did a webinar a couple of weeks ago of how to visualize a service map back into SCOM and build business services. So a lot of focus from Microsoft really is how SCOM can complement their Azure story. And then some other things that they mentioned, instead of going to major service pack updates and releases, there is a move to semi-annual release cadence, maybe 2 or 3 times per year. And what does this mean? Yeah, there's not going to be a large release every couple of years anymore, and their roadmap is really focused within the next 3 to 6 month time frame. Whilst that might sound there's no vision, what I would say is, you know, the System Center team currently in India are actually very close to the market. They're working with a lot of customers, but also partners such as ourselves, to really see what is needed to improve SCOM and build it into the future. So, you know, the takeaway from that is, you know, if you've got some big requests that you want to see in System Center or in SCOM, then, you know, you can actually reach out to the System Center team directly and they will take that on board. For instance, they launched a customer survey during Ignite just to get feedback from the whole community. So, you know, if you've got any must-haves or needs that you'd like to see in SCOM, please, you know, go to Microsoft directly, or even if you like, you know, come to us and we'll put you in touch with the right people. And I think this is a really good opportunity to get more out of this, more out of your SCOM environment, and to get the new features that you'd like to see. That was all from me. You know, that's a brief update on what happened at Ignite. And now for the bulk of the webinar, I'm going to hand over to Chris Millay to show you all the cool new stuff in Live Maps.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I want to go over some. There was a lot of stuff that got put into this particular release. Just kind of an overview here is we added an Object Explorer dashboard. This actually replaces what we used to internally refer to as the Managed Entity page. Several of y'all know what that used to look like. And I think you'll find that this is a vast improvement over that piece. We added an alert management piece to it, a page that actually allows you to search through alerts. We, of course, you know, the PowerShell widget, the OMS widget, and then we've added a couple new service dashboards. So to continue down, first one is the Object Explorer. You know, what is it? Basically, it's a new improved, you know, out-of-the-box dashboard. It's something that you can now drill into individual objects and find any of the child objects, help you see those performance counters, navigate around, get information and insight into that particular object that you probably wouldn't have seen, especially from a native SCOM dashboard or any other location. So it's helping you view things completely differently and allowing you to search for the things that you're after. Alert management, it's a single interface, allows you to search for alerts, you know, locate them, edit them, things of that nature, kind of quick and easy. It's something that we brought into the portal, so now you can see it from that point of view. It helps you find some of your alerts and you know, handle them a little bit faster than you could have before, instead of trying to find the object or you know, setting up an alert query or dashboard in the SCOM console, now you can do it directly from the portal. PowerShell Widget, really cool tool. Allows us to actually now run PowerShell basically. Now from here you can start pulling data, pulling things and having it look a little bit like our SQL query widget. But now it enlarges and enhances the scope and which the data in which we can bring in. So now you have the ability to actually show other bits of information besides just SCOM data, kind of the same way we did with our SQL query. Now we're just extending that to PowerShell. And so with that, we want to do a quick poll. PowerShell is one of those nice open-ended kind of things. We just kind of want a really quick poll to see what people think. So I'd like to see if you can answer this. This is a multiple choice. Hopefully not everyone turns around and just answers all of them, but if you do, that's fine too. We'd like to see what kind of information you would most like to see when it comes to running PowerShell. I would like to myself gather a lot of these PowerShell queries, things of that nature, and actually post them in our knowledge base. I already have a knowledge base article on how the PowerShell works. This kind of extends that process. So we'll just give this a few moments. I'll probably let this run for about a minute. We're about 40 seconds in, so. Looks like SCOM's the overall winner so far, but all right, so I'm going to close the poll real quick. So I used to know how to post this, but basically, so you guys know, it was basically 75% SCOM, 47% config man, and 32% Hyper-V. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what it looked like. So we will continue on. So the OMS widget, basically allows us to pull data, logs, into live maps. Now you can show events, you can show different queries that you have. We've been getting requests to allow to show security information, things of that nature, all from OMS. I'd also like to do the same thing with OMS. We just decided not to do a poll here, one right after the other. So when we get to those points, I'll offer up some more information at that point. So without delay, let's go to demo. So first thing I want to do is go through the Object Explorer. Now, the easiest way for me to do that is just to drill into any particular computer. Now, those that have live maps are used to this drilling into an object, and you get to that old managed entity page. This is a complete replacement of that page. So now, when I look at this, I'll try to cover this from left to right. I have the object itself. I am now also showing any and all child objects, anything that kind of rolls up into that one. So in this case, it's nice to show a computer because I'm looking at a host. But if I was looking at a SQL database engine, I would see just the databases below it. So now I can actually go through, and you'll notice that the health state of the particular object that I'm highlighting is here. It even shows the class. As I scroll down, you'll start to see the object as I'm looking at it, look at the class of that object. I can click on any one of these. I'll go into the Windows operating system. You'll notice that I'm now looking at that particular information. So when you go to the right-hand side, now you start to look at the different variables that are attached to that particular object that you've highlighted. So here I'm looking at property values, pretty basic information. If I had any alerts on this would show me the alerts, and then the interaction with this, I don't have any alerts on this one obviously, but the interaction of this is going to be a lot like it will be when I show you the alert management page. Now here's where it gets interesting. Performance graphs. Now I can show the different performance graphs that are related to this particular object. We defaulted to 1 day, but as you'll notice, I can now interact with the graph. I can see the values. We try to pinpoint a high point, a low point. I can scroll down, and as I change objects, this will query and grab new information. So now if you're trying to find a particular performance metric, sometimes that's one of the harder parts. You never know what it's actually being targeted to. So now you can actually go through and find those things. Also, what we've run into a couple times, just since, when we kind of had a couple pre-releases to this to a few customers, we had a couple people try to find a performance graph. We couldn't find it, and that led us to the next target, which is monitor and rules. We'll actually show you any and all monitors and rules that are targeted for this particular object. What we found in a couple cases where they were looking for something like IOPS on a hard drive is that the performance counter just wasn't enabled. So that's why it wasn't there. So now I can actually see all monitors and rules from this point. I can even sort this. So if I want to look at all the ones that are disabled at the time, I can do that. And now you get more information. So we're really trying to show more and more information about the object and how you can look at different property values, whether it be performance counters or alerts or anything along those lines. Now, the next two related services, any live map services that this particular object is a part of, is a simple way of doing that. And then tasks. So here, same thing as kind of running tasks on a particular object. Now I can actually go through the different objects, find the tasks that I'm allowed to run, and actually target this and execute it. And I can see the output from there. So if I wanted to, I'll run this real quick. I actually hadn't planned on doing it, but might as well. Any agent tasks that you have for a particular object is really what it's going to come down to. That you can that SCOM would run and allow you to see the results. Probably should have practiced this before I actually did it to find one. So if I want to view more, I can actually show. No, I had an error particularly on this one. Not always a good thing to start off with. Anyway, so as you change, you'll notice that you'll get different tasks associated that you can go through. So the properties and what's highlighted on the right really depend on where you're looking at on the left. I can also, give myself a little extra space here if I want to, especially if I'm looking at performance graphs or performance metrics, to give myself a little bit more room to look at those. Also, you can, just like we could do before, put something in maintenance mode. I can view classes, other classes that this particular object may be targeted to, and then also open up the Health Explorer. So that's the Object Explorer. This is a vast change in the way that we handled when you're drilling into an object and going into things. Now, the next part of this will be the alert management page. So if I come to home or go into my menu, I can go into alert management. Alert management is really just a quick search of any and all alerts. Now it's going to be targeted to the objects that a person has permissions to see. So anyone looking at this is only going to be able to see certain objects or certain alerts based on that criteria. It defaults to basically the last week. From there, you can change the from date to, from and to dates. So if you want to go back further in time, it also defaults to only looking at warning and critical. However, if I want to, I can change that here and say, look, I only want to look at my criticals, or I only want to look at, informational, things of that nature. So you have certain things that you can change at that point of view. I can also do a search. Now, the search is going to look at the source. It's going to look at the name. It doesn't do an advanced search going through the entire text of an alert. It really only looks at a couple different fields to try to find the information. So if I do order, I can find all the ones that are related, in this case, to order entry. When I target this particular one, also you can change the state. So if you want to look for sent to engineer or new or closed, that's fine too. Here you can go through the different property values. Now, those that have had live maps before know that when you clicked on alert in any other location, basically all you had was, owner, ticket ID, and state. Those are a couple of things that you could edit. You really couldn't edit too much more. You could look at the details, but that was as far as it went. Now we're actually trying to give you more information that you can look at, and not only that, but also edit. So if you need to edit your custom fields, then you can go through that and assign different values to those. And just like before, I can open up a Health Explorer to go from there. So we're really trying to bring more power to those people that need it as far as going to dealing with alerts, closing them out, things of that nature, searching for alerts. All right, so on to PowerShell widget. So for those that are dealing with the summary dashboards, we've added 2 new widgets in our summary dashboards. First one being PowerShell. I'm pretty excited about this. You can see I've kind of related several things along here on the PowerShell, all except for this upper right-hand corner. So simple PowerShell. First one is doing nothing more than a SCOM group, and it's outpointing it into a string text. This is the exact same one, except for it's slightly different. So let me actually go into edit mode to kind of show these. So if I want to go into my edit mode, we have a couple different display types: grid view, single value, and targeted gauge. The grid view and the targeted gauge are kind of the same things. Well, actually, those are the kind of the same things we had for the SQL query. But now I can turn around and say, look, I want to get SCOM group and then output that to a string. That's exactly what this is showing right here. I can do almost the identical thing here, except for now I'm putting it in a grid view. But I've also told it I only want to see certain display names or certain column headers. We'll go from there. This one here, I'm doing nothing more than gathering information from a couple different computers. Now, one of the keys to understand about the PowerShell widget is it is running under the app pool user. So any SCOM permissions that you need, or any permissions as far as PowerShell are related to, they do need to have permissions based on that user. So your app pool user is kind of the key there. As far as permissions go. So this one here I purposely left as an error because I've actually been playing with Hyper-V, trying to do a couple things like get VM or something along those lines to pull in Hyper-V information, VHD information, things of that nature, something that I might not be able to get that much information directly from SCOM. That's why we also asked about the config manager and some of those things that we can possibly pull in. And I do need y'all's help. I would greatly appreciate any help. So as you guys put this out there, and if you have PowerShell scripts that you would really like to see working, things of that nature, if you finally get things that are working, if you could pass that on to me, email it to support@civision.com. I would love to take as many as I can and put that into a KB article so that we can kind of share that information out to other users. Permissions that need to be set, the script itself, things of that nature. And if you run into issues that you have that you're trying to get a PowerShell script running, then please don't hesitate to send that to me. Again, support@civision.com, and I'd like to see if I can get that going. There's a lot of potential when dealing with PowerShell, so I'd like to see us develop this even further. Now, this one is a targeted gauge. So basically what I've done is done a count on critical alerts and set it to an actual value versus the target versus the maximum. So it is kind of a bar graph that you can set. So in this case, I only have three alerts, where my target is 55, or I forgot what my target was, but the maximum was 55. So I can see where I'm at on that gauge. One of the cool parts about this is I've long thought that we should have a kind of a notepad widget, something that you could turn around and just put information. And this PowerShell kind of actually does that. So if I just type in text and put it in quotes, then I can actually list out and put notes. In this case, I just did a quick date time, but you can do anything you want. When you do run your PowerShell script, there is a time frame that will wait. So there's obviously we don't want things to wait forever. So if it takes minutes to run, then we want to kind of time that out, error it out, and not cause the entire dashboard to wait forever because of a long running script. So you do put a timeout, and if that timeout exceeds, then we do actually change the color of the title bar, which goes along the same thing with the error messages. We'll change the color of the title bar there. You can actually put an error So if you exceed a certain value or something along those lines in your script, then you can set, write error, and write yourself a little error, and it'll actually change the title to red, so you can be alerted to that. So some kind of visual notification that you've exceeded a certain threshold that you've determined on your own. So like I said, there's a lot of potential when we're talking about actually dealing with the PowerShell script. And now I'll go to OMS. OMS, it's a simple query. I'm going to come into edit mode here just for a moment. So this one is literally grabbing everything. I just did a simple, query for star, and I'm only asking for the last 10 values. If I wanted to select certain columns, I could. In this case, I elected to keep those out, because if you do that, I like to show that you basically can see that you'll get rows and rows of data as it goes along. Now you can do the kind of the same thing. In this case, I went and grabbed AD assessment through my my lab, and just said, you know what, grab it for a certain computer, my only domain controller in this particular case, and I selected certain columns. Now when you create this, when you first create one, the first thing it's going to do is ask you for a username and password. So we don't run this through SCOM itself. We actually go log on to OMS, grab the information, run the query, and then display it in a grid view. In our tests, and when we were running this, we literally were grabbing different information from 4 different instances of OMS running at the same time. So it's all depending on which OMS subscription you have up and running. You can log on with different credentials to grab that information and display it. This is kind of the one area where we're not really looking at SCOM user roles to gain access. It's really up to you to add your username and password to authenticate to OMS in order for you to show you whatever logging information that you would like to show. Now on that, the last thing I'll show here is our out-of-the-box services. So we added a few more. We added Citrix. Some of you have known that we've had a Citrix one out there for a little while. However, it used to be kind of one big one, which caused us to do a little bit of editing here and there for different people. So what we've done is, if you go into the authoring console and you go into your Discover service, you'll see a new listing out of different services in here. So you will see that there is, Citrix, NetScaler, Storefront, Zen App, Zen Desktop, Zen Server. Each one of these are a separate service that depend on certain management packs. Instead of having one big service which was convoluted, not everyone had all the same management packs, we decided to break it up into the separate ones. The same thing is true for right now for Veeam. So Veeam, if you go through, you'll notice that there's only one. There's a Veeam for VMware, basically. I'm actually in the process of working on a Veeam backup and replication. That's still in the pre-stages. So if you're interested in that, send an email to support@civision.com, and I can give you a pre-release version. It's just the XML you can import in and play with it that way. But the Veeam one are separated out into the licensing part and the components that are required for Veeam to operate, and then looking at things like your vCenters, the clusters, data stores, things of that nature. The other one that we have going is Veritas, and let me get to that one. Actually, I think I have that running on a different server. I think I got to come here real quick. Oh no, I actually had it up and running. Yeah, there we go. So Veritas, we've worked with that one to try to get that one going with a couple customers, and finally have one up and going. So feel free to install that one and play with it. And then of course, if you have any feedback, don't hesitate to ask on that one as far as trying to get certain things working. yeah, I think I pretty much covered it. Now, if you guys have any questions, I've gone through quite a bit. At the end, we'll actually start looking at your questions and answers. I'll try to answer as many of those as possible, given the allotted time, and then we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'm going to go back to, let me get it going here. Go back to Matt, and he will continue on with the rest of this until we get to the question and answer period, which I'll come back on. So here we go.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that, Chris. I think that was a really good overview, and as I said, a lot of people have been really impressed, especially around the Object Explorer. One thing I probably do want to add as well, Chris mentioned he is working on another out-of-the-box service for Veeam backup and replication, but we do have some other out-of-the-box in the pipeline that we're working on in the background, and it's interesting for you guys to note if you want to be involved in that. It includes Office 365. We're also working on Oracle service, Nutanix, and ClickView. So the same goes. If you want to be involved in helping us build those, then feel free to get in contact with Chris's support. But I think over the coming releases, the next one will be in December. We'll continue to add our out-of-the-box services based upon Microsoft management packs and also other major third-party vendor MPs as well. So I think that's good information to share. But yeah, I think that was really interesting, Chris, and I'll see we have got a bunch of questions, but we're going to put them to the end and just stay with us a little bit longer. So as we mentioned on the announcement for the webinar, that we want to discuss a great offer for all of our happy LifeMaps customers out there. So we're going to give you a quick introduction to our, I say new solution, it's the old new solution. It's called Civision IQ. Can you just go to the next slide? Yeah, so this is Civision IQ. It's actually a V2. You know, so we did a major change in the architecture from a product we were working on called Unity IQ. So now it's been rebranded and re-released as Civision IQ. We announced this at Ignite. It actually just went on general release this week. And basically, it gives the enterprise level organizations that single pane of glass across their IT operations tools. Okay, but what does that mean? Well, the interesting things from a technology point of view, it's built on elastic data technology, which is a big data platform, and it can hold huge amounts of data, and it's got a very fast response time, and it has a very powerful and easy to use search query language. I think there's a few of these in the market. I think we're focusing on an on-prem solution because we know a lot of our clients still have large data centers, but the solution can also be easily deployed as a cloud solution. So maybe we do that in the future. We're not going to go too much into the technology today. Just give you a high level of what it does, and then we will be doing some follow-up webinars that if you're interested. Just go to the next slide, please, Chris. Yeah, so we already have a number of integrations for Civision IQ based upon already what we see in the market. We know a lot of clients that are using SCOM also have Nagios running, and then next to SolarWinds as well. Nagios primarily for your Linux environment, SolarWinds for networking. We also integrate with your most of the major clouds, public AWS and Microsoft Azure. So if you've got any distributed applications, we can take a feed from that as well. Also VMware vCenter, and also we see this as bridging the gap between your some of your infrastructure tools and also your ITSM platforms. And we integrate today with ServiceNow and Ivanti. But you know, over the coming months, we will add 2 to 3 different integrations per month, hopefully, based upon like demand in the market of what we see the clients need. But then also we do have an open REST API, which you can quite easily connect to any IT operation tool that you can think of, and feed and log analytics or incidents from your own ITSM solution. That's very much high level what Civision IQ is about. You may already have heard about it on the grapevine. But yeah, we just wanted to announce really the early bird offer. So next slide, please, Chris. And this is exclusive to LiveMaps customers, so you must own LiveMaps to be to qualify for this. So yeah, basically the offer is get 3 integrations for the price of 1. Normally the list price for 3 integrations would be 15,000. We normally charge 5,000 per integration, but for the price of 5,000 you can get 3 integrations with one being SCOM and 2 other of your choice, and that offer will run until the end of 2017. And also, just to add, this is a really simple licensing. There's nothing to hide here. There's no restrictions on the size of your infrastructure. Doesn't matter how many objects or CIs you have. Doesn't matter how many users you have. We don't limit that, and we don't limit the number of dashboards. So really, there's no limit on usage base. It's really just a fixed price per integration at the moment. So yeah, if you're interested, try Civision IQ for your organization. Can you please respond to this poll, and we will be in touch with you shortly to issue you a license key. So Chris, can you just put the poll up? So yeah, please tell me if you're interested, and we will, if you select yes on this poll, we will issue you a 30-day trial license with 3 integrations and some assistance on how to get it installed. So hopefully everybody's still here and still listening to vote on that. But we'll just give that 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yep, I see most people have answered that. Okay, we probably won't release the results on that, but thanks for submitting your answers there. Okay, that was kind of the core of the webinar. Hopefully what you've seen today, especially from Chris's part, has got you all excited. So I just want to point you in the right direction for next steps before we do go on to the Q&A. Basically, if you've not already downloaded it, please go onto our downloads page. So for customers, it's under resources and downloads. If you are not a customer today, but you're interested to get started, then again, please come to our website and request a 30-day trial license. And then I think an important point of this webinar is we want to build up some more interaction. We've now put a lot of more power into LiveMaps, specifically with the PowerShell and OMS widget, and we really want to get feedback from our customers and to say, well, what information do you want to see in LiveMaps next to your SCOM data coming from elsewhere in System Center, OMS, or any SQL query. So for that, like as Chris mentioned, please send your questions over to support, and we'll try and get those answered and build up a bit of a knowledge base around them. And for those of you who prefer personal emails, you can either email myself or Chris Malay directly. And then yeah, if you've got any other questions on features that you'd like to see in LiveMaps as well, that's the place to do it. And then finally, because yeah, today was really a LiveMaps webinar, but we just to point you in the right direction. If you would like to know more about Civision IQ, we're running a couple of webinars in 2 weeks' time, one for European times and one for US times. So please go on our website and find that under the resources sections, and you can sign up for that webinar. And that was kind of it. And then thanks for joining us for this time. I think we still got some time left, and I do see we have got a number of questions. So, Chris, have you taken a look at them? Have you got some?
Yep. All right. So some of these are related together. So I'm going to kind of bridge those together. I got one that said, what about overrides for monitors and rules? The other one said, asked me some stuff about alerts based off of rules versus monitors versus rules. Okay, so, well, they can kind of be related together. I'm going to answer those kind of at the same time. So this is the first launch of the Object Explorer. Obviously, we wanted to try to build in as much information as possible and put in and allow you to see what monitors and rules are still there. Creating an override, or well, I guess, and even looking at the alerts for one of the monitors versus rules. You know, the initial release, trying to put things together. Now, when it comes to overrides, that is something that we want to put into the product. It would be nice for those that it probably going to be a SCOM admin function only, allowing you to basically take a monitor or a rule that you've seen in the Object Explorer and actually enable it, and then save that to a management pack to enable that thing to get going, or something along those lines. So it's not currently in the product. But it is something that we would like to add in, that we've already thought ahead, trying to figure out getting that in place. Now, that may be 6 months down the road. It's not going to be the very next release. We're already starting to work on our next release, but it is something that we're already thinking about to take this enhancement and kind of take it to the next level. As far as alerts go, based on the monitors and rules, right now we're just showing the alerts for alerts. We've also thought about, you know, trying to distinguish the two. That is another kind of add-on that we want to do, adding our alert management piece, or even looking at alerts from the Object Explorer. We'd like to be able to kind of distinguish the two, where it came from, where it's based off of. It's not something that is in this initial release of either the Object Explorer or the alert management piece. So that's kind of answering that question first. Next question I got was about scheduling maintenance mode. You know, especially since SCOM 2016 allows it. We don't currently have plans for that. That is something we've talked about internally. So it's not in this product yet. It is something, you know, that we're talking about. If that's something you guys would love to see, the ability to help you with scheduling maintenance mode in the product, then you know, let me know. Send the email to support@civision.com. Yes, it'll create a ticket, but then I can turn around and just, you know, send it off to the developers and let them know that I've got a high demand or a low demand for it. Either way, I'd love to know whether that's something you would love to see, and what the demand is for that, because obviously that's going to take a little bit of extra work. That's not really kind of a dashboarding solution. That's more of a, you know, working with it type of solution. Although, you know, we do kind of do a blend of each one. Got another one here about the color output in the PowerShell. Right now, the answer is no. The only thing I have is the ability to create an error and actually set the title bar as either red or yellow. We don't have the ability to do, you know, kind of like a right host and then do a background color or something along those lines. It's not saying that we're not going to add it in there. It's just this initial release with the PowerShell, it wasn't implemented. That is something I'd love to see in there, because there's times that it would be nice just to have color. Let's see. I've got one in here about SLA reports, because some of you know that I've talked about it, and as far as a future enhancement, we are still planning that. It just wasn't part of this release. Let's see, what else do I have? Suppose that Civision IQ has only one universal version, irrelevant of infrastructure platform. I'm trying to understand where that's coming from. If you could follow that up with a different question, maybe reword that. I'm trying to figure out exactly where you're going with that one. I'll talk a little bit about Civision IQ, even though this isn't a Civision IQ webinar. It's a website that runs, and it needs a SQL backend for some information, and we use Elastic for most of our information. Where the Elastic is stored can be stored on multiple places. It can be either stored on the server itself, or it can be in an Elastic farm that's running all on Linux. It doesn't really matter where it comes to that part. Other than that, it's all IIS 7 or 8 based. website. So it can basically be anywhere. And one thing about Civision IQ is that it's not a SCOM product, meaning that it doesn't install management packs into SCOM. It doesn't require SCOM. I can use Civision IQ if I just had SolarWinds and Azure, or VMware. It doesn't require SCOM in the least. It is kind of a monitoring system agnostic type of platform that allows me to pull in multiple data sources. So that's pretty much where I'll go there. For the PowerShell widget, can you add a checkbox when setting up the widget so you can call out a specific account that ties an individual server or group of servers? As far as allowing us to add credentials other than trying to run it through the IIS app pool, I assume that's where you're going with that. It's something that I want to talk to the developers about. That's more of a lot of what you see is first run. I mean, it's obviously initial release of the PowerShell. It's initial release of OMS. It's an initial release of the Object Explorer and the Alert Management. Those are all new items to our product line. There's a lot of areas of improvement that can be made. I agree that that's probably something that we should look into to allow higher level permissions on certain widgets to kind of go through, so that because I've run into a problem trying to connect to Hyper-V and do do a get VM. I'm able to override it if I raise my permission levels to a point where I'm uncomfortable, but it is possible. So I'll have to talk to the developers on that one as far as taking that to the next step. Obviously, we want to improve the product as we go along. Is there a Hyper-V out-of-the-box service without Veeam? At this time, no. Yeah. If you know what, I would like to, if that's something you're interested in, I would like to work with you and see if we can get one running. Obviously I have a limited lab in what I can do, so I only really have a couple Hyper-V servers in my lab, so I can't do much. I would really like to find someone who has a big Hyper-V instance and try to go through what we can find. The problem we have there is it's a little bit hard to define. When we do an out-of-the-box service, this kind of goes into how we create our out-of-the-box services. A lot of times we have to depend on other management packs in order to make discoveries. A lot of those have to do with hosting relationships and things of that nature. The hardest part is for us on Hyper-V, especially with an out-of-the-box service, is finding the relationship between the actual server and knowing that it's a Hyper-V or part of a Hyper-V cluster or host or something like that along those lines. But yeah, I would love to work with you. We can set up a session at some point in time here in the near future. And if you don't mind, I'll work through and build a Hyper-V service in your environment as long as I get the XML after we're done. And then you can change it all you want after we're done. That way I can share it out to the masses. Oh, it looks like I got a couple people that would like to do the Hyper-V one. Thank you. I'll actually contact a couple of you guys. That sounds good. Let's see. Am I missing anything? I got a few more that have come through. How are we on time? It looks like we got a few more minutes. Okay. I'd like to obviously get these answered as much as possible. Do you have a Citrix dashboard that don't rely on the Citrix own MP? These licenses? Yeah. Unfortunately, no. Our Citrix. As far as our out-of-the-box services go, they do rely on the Citrix MP. Now, we've always had the ability to create a service at any point in time. It's easy to create services if you know what you're looking for. The reason why we've done our out-of-the-box services with like the Citrix MP in this case is because it already has things defined and we can create membership rules based on those classes that we're looking for. A lot of times when you're talking about building a service that, in the case of like Citrix, that's not necessarily part of the management packs, you have to kind of hard code things with your own server names or your own naming conventions. That doesn't work for an out-of-the-box service, but it is something that we can assist you with. Especially dealing with a lot of our customers. I do think I may have to have a webinar or a big go-to-meeting session where we just talk about membership rules, because there's a lot of power in there, especially if you start learning some of the tricks that you can use to create certain dashboards and certain rules based off of other dashboards that you've created to kind of help roll things up and keep things together to try to keep it as maintenance free as possible. So again, a Citrix one not based off the Citrix MP. It is possible. It's just not something we can do from an out-of-the-box service. It's kind of limited. And then it looks like I got one more for the Hyper-V. It looks like I've got 3 Hyper-V services. All right, I like that. Looks like I'm going to be a busy man. Let's see. Is there anything I'm missing?
I did see one question about the colors on the screen. They're having problems with the orange colors. We use a dynamic dashboard with 8.6 on a big TV on the wall, and it's a problem that red and orange are always on top. It's hard to determine which is red until to go and have a look on the TV. Is it possible to have an option not to sort on states?
Yes. Well, not right now. Are you talking about? I assume you're talking about like the services dashboard or something along those lines. We are going to turn around and actually. I can't remember if it's our very next release or the one after that. We've already got a plan to turn around and actually stop, or giving you the option to not sort. Basically, put them or sort by your own criteria, alphabetically. Something along those lines. As far as the service dashboard goes, that can be extended to other things, obviously, once we've got it complete for the service dashboard, because we have had requests for people that want to keep their services in a set order versus trying to use the algorithm to sort them. That way they know if the third line down is red, then they know that deals with a set service. Something along those lines. It is something that's planned and should be in a release in the near future. It's not in this release, but that's what I can tell you. Let's see. Let's see. How are we? Yeah, okay, good. It was the service dashboard we're talking about. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Yeah, it is coming. And hopefully, and if it's a real need, let me know. I'll see if I can push it. See how much I can push it into a future release. All right. Any more questions? I think I've got. Hold on. What was this? How to create services using membership rules? Okay. Yeah. Oh, Docker. I knew I missed that one. Let me get back to you on that one, because the question was basically what I think about Docker, i.e. a scalable web server farm. Let me get back to you on that one. That's a more specific question that we'll deal with. I think that'd be better if I take that one offline.
Just a question about how to create create services using membership rules, but I think.
Yeah, I think that was more along the webinar, so that.
Yeah.
Kind of
we have some information on that as well. I think we can share, right?
Yeah, I've got some information, but I think part of that would be a training webinar to go through and actually show people, the different power that you can use with the membership rules. A lot of lessons learned that we've learned from different customers, different things to help build out the services or dashboards based on the membership rules. There is a lot of power, and sometimes it takes a lot of explaining what the 3 different tabs do in the membership rules and how they relate together, or how you can put things together to try to create a very dynamic service that maybe you only have to edit one dashboard every so often and not all 3. So, all right. If there's no more questions, I think that pretty much concludes what we've been going through. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Hopefully you got a lot of useful information. Hopefully you like what you see. Obviously, we've got a really good team together now with working on live maps. So the product improvements should be coming faster. They should be coming better. The overall direction that it's going is going in a good place. And so I want to thank you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and thanks, everybody. I think the key takeaway is if you haven't downloaded 8.7 already, then please go and do so. I think there's a lot of power in the Object Explorer. I think that shows it's like really putting the lights on into your SCOM environment to the very deep layer and enhanced performance dashboard. So I think that's to just go and play around with it. The same with the alert management. And I think another key takeaway is the PowerShell and OMS widget have been added, but they're only as usable as you guys kind of ask us about it, So I think there's been some great questions around PowerShell already, and keep those questions coming, and that will actually define where we go with it to try and give you guys the information that you want from there. So I really see that as more of an ongoing discussion where we go next with PowerShell and OMS, really based upon customer demands. So as Chris said, fire off your questions, and then we will send out some answers to everybody individually based upon this Q&A, and other than that, we will be in contact with relevant people, and we thank you for attending the webinar today, and hope to speak to you all soon individually.